Hey everyone, this is Catfish Weekly 26. Um, we got with us Chuck Davidson, Lyle Stokes, myself, Chris, aka Fudd Wallace. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about catfishing image. We're going to talk in chat a little bit and see what people want to talk about in chat. If we go off on that a little bit, it might just be a random topic kind of night. We also have a giveaway a little bit later on of the um, two scales that we're going to give away for the pictures posted in the Catfish Weekly Facebook pages. Um, so we're going to go ahead and start it off on Catfish Image, and I guess I'll let Lyle start us off a little bit about it.
Well, a lot of us fish tournaments and stuff, and with your tournament fishing, you want to you don't have to have jerseys and tournament shirts and specialty decals on your boat or anything. You just need to have your equipment nice and clean and looking nice for because people just as liable to walk up and want to see what you're using as not, and if you got a nasty old shirt on or something from being out fishing all day, try to change it and put a clean one on. If you're going to be on the stage for weigh-in, they don't want to see somebody that's got shad scales or guts hanging off their arms and clothes when they go up there. But and things happen when you're in the boat fishing. Everybody knows that you're going to get dirty and have things on you. But if you're in the running for some of the top prizes or money, your sponsors or just the image you want to keep portray is of the cleanliness. You don't want to go up there looking real nasty, and that's one of the things that the bass and crappie guys have got down pat. They have a time to get cleaned up and get ready to go before they go on stages and stuff. You don't see any of them guys walking up there or weighing their fish and looking all nasty and stuff. And you want to have your shirt on. You don't want to go up there without any shirt on, or there's just you want to look presentable like you was going to go into a store or something. And especially if you have sponsors, you don't want to represent the people that's helping you out by not looking presentable. And another way that we make catfishing as a whole more beneficial is by not talking about killing and frying every fish that gets caught. We've had kind of a go around with that today online, and some of these guys don't understand. We're trying to lead by example. What we're trying to do is promote CPR, the larger breeding size fish. And that's not to say that some of them doesn't have to be taken out of the water. If you gut hook a big fish, there's no sense of turning it back if you know it's going to die. But you wouldn't want to post pictures and let everybody know that you're killing this fish just to be killing it. Another thing that really gets to me is, I see pictures on Facebook all the time of these guys hanging very nice fish off of nails on signs and things, and that is probably the worst image that you could possibly get the catfishing community. It makes everybody look like a bunch of hicks. It's not smart enough to know what they're taking care of their fish that they catch, and they think it's a bragging board, and in reality, it's just stupidity. You get that up there like that, and it gives everybody that catfishes a bad image, and these guys are not smart enough to realize that they're killing the rest of us by trying to make themselves look good. So try to remember that when you post your pictures. When you're holding a picture or a fish for a picture, if it's got excessive bleeding on it, try to wipe that off. These things like this is what's made bass and crappie fishing ahead of the game, and we're having to play catch up as far as image, and we need to really work on that as a whole, not just as individuals, but as a catfishing group. We all need to work on this, and I'm as bad as anybody else. When you catch a big fish or something, you get excited, and one of the things like we just got a message is don't hold your fish by the gills. Catfish are so big, there's plenty of room. Even with a 5-pounder, you can get your hand inside their mouth and another and underneath their body to support them. When you stick your hands in a fish's gill, you're destroying the part of their body that lets them get oxygen to breathe. So when you do that to a big fish, you're just basically creating a death sentence for him.
Yeah, the image, image means a few different things nowadays for catfishing. Like Lyle was saying, um, the catfish nailed to a board and stuff. The image is changing in a way that we don't consider a catfish trash fish anymore, and a lot of people did. A lot of people never really considered the catfish to be a sport fish. It didn't have the following that it's starting to have now. I mean, it's always had a lot of catfishermen, but it's starting to get to more of a sport angled fish and seen as one than it has ever been before. So image, we're talking about an image as far as the fishermen themselves, and as far as the fish themselves. So for sponsors, for legislature, lawmakers, anybody to take us seriously, we can't, be holding a beer in one hand and then a catfish nailed up behind us, and no shirt on, and not looking as if we respect the fish that we're trying to represent. If our image isn't correct and we don't have uh, the right teamwork behind it, it's never going to succeed. And that's why you see a lot of people on Facebook talking about CPR, catch photo release. That's one of the things of the image. There's a lot more to it. There's, like we said, you really have to put your best foot forward. For tournament guys, I would say you should have at least two different jerseys. If you're fishing a tournament, have, even if it's just like a regular jersey and a hoodie or something, and if you get one completely destroyed to where it just looks like you've been rolling in the mud or you got fish blood all over it, when you go up to get a picture taken, have a cleaner jersey on. Try to look a little better, try to represent us as catfishermen a little bit better. Definitely don't be going and getting pictures taken, holding a fish by its gills, holding it by its mouth, and it being a great big fish. I'd start to say them 15 pounder or biggers, you don't even want to hold them by the mouth. Under 15 pounds, yeah, I don't think it hurts them too bad. But when you start getting 15 pounds or over, holding that fish by the bottom lip, I mean, imagine if somebody held you by your bottom lip. It's going to break jaws. It's gonna be harmful on the fish for a long run. Um, but then again, like you're saying, first the image of yourself too for sponsors. If you look clean, if you present yourself, if your image is that of somebody who's respectable and respects and loves the sport that you're doing, you're probably going to be better off on picking up sponsors. Um, doing better in other people's eyes. Even the bystanders, the people that are coming to tournaments and stuff, they're going to look at you a little bit differently and better if you're cleaner, if you're well presented, and instead of looking like you just rolled off the side of a truck and all your brothers and other brother Daryl and your other brother Daryl,
Well,
they're all there with you.
we have different clothes, different shirts and stuff that we wear in the boat. We have the stuff that we wear to weigh-ins, and then we have the t-shirts and jackets that we actually use in the boat. And then when we get in at the end of the tournament, we'll slip them off and put the jerseys and stuff back on. And even if you're not wearing jerseys, just have a clean shirt there. It doesn't have to have something that has your name on it or somebody else's name on it. If it's just clean, and hey, if you're weighing a fish and you get it dirty while you're weighing that fish, that's cool. But at least start out with something that looks presentable, and people will understand if you've got a 70-pound fish and you get up against you and you get some slime on it. That's cool, but at least try to start out with something that looks halfway decent. Like I say, it doesn't really have to be a jersey, just a clean shirt or semi-clean shirt.
Yep, exactly. Um, and we're not saying there's anything wrong with being, if you're a redneck, you're a hillbilly or whatever. There's nothing wrong with being a redneck. There's nothing wrong with being a hillbilly. It's just try to do what you can to help us. Because there's a lot of guys out there doing a lot for the catfishing industry, and whether you're partaking in that or participating in the efforts that are going on, the very least you can do is try to look presentable. I mean, really, when you look at bass guys and what bass guys have got done for bass regulations and things, they really did a unified and uniformed effort with their image to make bass be a classy sport fish. And by doing that, they really got a lot of respect from the people in charge, the people that can make things happen. You know, if we don't look like we respect our fish and we don't respect each other, and we're just a bunch of, you know, guys that want to bicker and argue and fight about this and that, they're not going to be willing to come in and step in and do anything for us because, you know, we can't even do anything for ourselves. We can't work together at all. Um, you know, the image really is a big thing that you know, a lot of guys we're doing it, we're working on it. Um, you know, we really need to get the message out there to everybody to really try to work on it themselves. Everybody could, you know, do a little bit of something to help out with the image thing. Chuck, what do you got to throw in on this?
Yeah, you know, when everybody goes out and gets them a few eaters now and then, I haven't really kept any fish, just a couple for my neighbors in the past 2 years because I really don't get into cleaning them and all that stuff. But you know, if when you catch a few, you know, you post, hey, I caught a few eaters, but a lot of people's posting, you know, where they've got, you know, 25 cats laid out, you know. I wouldn't post anything like that if I was, you know, went out and caught me a fry to eat. You know, just reply, hey, had a good night. And that, you know, that makes the image look better on the catfish, and you know, everybody's not thinking, hey, these guys are just out to, you know, catch everything in the river and keep everything they're catching. You know, people also, even though they're small fish, people get the wrong idea about it and think, you know, he's not practicing what he preaches and all this, even though they don't understand that we're trying to protect the breeding size catfish, and you know, the 5 to 7 pounders are fine. Um, if you see the bass guys and you have any bass friends on your sites and stuff, um, you'll also see them get onto each other about holding bass with trying to hold them straight out with the neck arched real bad. You'll see them get onto each other about that because of their image. That really hurts the bass when they're lipping that bass, and they try to hold that body straight out by the mouth, um, because they care about their image. So, you know, let's just take our time, get some good pictures, support them bellies, get the weight off that mouth, and um, you know, that's the way I like to see some good old cats being held.
And here today, you know, we've ran into a couple issues with people posting pictures, and we weren't offended by them. I mean, we didn't necessarily care for them, and they weren't what we were trying to show as our image. So we removed them, and we were polite about it. We said, you know, this isn't what we're trying to show on Catfish Weekly. We're trying to present the image of CPR, you know, letting the big breeder size fish. And I'll be honest with you, I just got back from a week-long vacation fishing the Ohio River. I mainly fished the entire time for flatheads because I've never ate a flathead, and I fished for any size flathead, but I would have thrown anything over 10 pounds back. I actually caught about 8 flatheads that were all under 10 pounds, and I kept them to eat. And I filleted them out, you know, and I have them in my freezer, and I'm gonna try flathead, and I'm gonna eat them, you know. But that's, and I do that every once in a while for channel cats at my local reservoir. I go out and I catch it, you know, some 5 to 7 pound channel cats, and I'll keep a few of those for a year. I don't eat a lot of catfish, but and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with guys going out catching some eater fish and eating, frying them up, you know, baking them however they want to cook their fish. You know, there's no problem with that. All we're saying is those big 10+ pound fish, those have higher levels of PCBs. They have more contaminants in their bodies. They're not as tender of the meat. Um, and just for the simple fact of they are the breeder size fish. They're the ones that are going to put the most eggs out in the water. They're also going to have the genes of being those big fish to keep the big, you know, those babies that are going to be able to have the ability to get that big. Because just like with humans, you know, I'm only like 4'3", You know, my dad was probably only 4'3". You know, if he was a big tall guy, I probably would have had the genes to be a big tall guy. I'm bigger than 4'3", but I'm just being funny about it. You know, so the genes that are in them fish, you know, them big fish especially, they need to be staying around. If you want to have your kids be able to go out there and catch a big fish like that, you know, that along with you know, the regulations and things because of commercial fishing and other things, and even if it hasn't hit your area, you know, it very well could, or even just overfishing of recreational fishermen, you know, for lakes and things, that it can very easily be over harvested. And you know, so pretty much the image, you know, we gotta get unified. We gotta work together on trying to present a better image for cat fishermen, for catfish themselves. Um, you know, they're like Missouri. You know, we had the chief of fisheries on for Missouri, and he was talking about how catfish are a sport fish in the state of Missouri, and they're the
They
number
are
one
the number one sport fish
the
in
number one
Missouri,
sport fish.
and they're nearly the number one sport fish nationwide right now.
Yep, and they've
You know,
always been.
people don't realize, they think bass are the number one sport fish. They're the number one tournament sport fish because of the amount of money they have behind them. But catfish is the number one sport fish across the United States.
Yeah,
And people don't realize that, but if you do some checking, that's the way it is.
yeah. So I'm gonna ask these guys in here if there's any other topics they want to talk about. But yeah, the I don't think that I necessarily, and there's a lot of guys that I've talked to about catfishing, you know, they don't want it to get to the level that bass fishing is at, but you know, definitely want to get it up there. You know, we want to get it better represented than it is right now.
Well, the catfishing industry is growing yearly in leaps and bounds, and there's tons and tons of web forums out there that you can get on and you can talk about them. It's just tons of stuff, and people and members of catfishing communities all over Facebook and different places like that, and it's extremely popular. But yeah, the part of making it as commercialized as bass and crappie fishing, I'm saying the majority does not want it to get to that point, but they do want it to get better. Uh, it's right on the verge of really being something big. And at this point, I think the only reason that it's not getting any bigger than it is sponsorship money. You know,
Big
if we
business.
had if we had the major sponsor money that bass fishing or crappie fishing had, there's no doubt in my mind that it wouldn't surpass. Uh, it would be number two in a hurry, and probably in our lifetime we'd see it being number one just because it's such a popular fish to fish for.
We got Robert Tallman in our chat asked, you know, why he's talking about flatheads. He said, why is he losing so many? He's got broke lines, spitting hooks out. That he's getting on them, just ain't hooking them. He's having problems getting them in, I guess. With flatheads, you know, like I said, I fished mainly for flatheads. I caught a flathead every night I went out, if not one more than one. Um, I like my normal plan is to have a load of fresh bluegills in various sizes. I like to have small bluegill, and when I was down on the Ohio River this weekend, me and Scott Wiseman, we went out to fish for some um, moon eye, and the mayfly hatch is on real thick down there, and we were basically waiting and going around and just sort of throwing the ultralight with the bobber on it, about 2 foot under, had a cricket on it, and we were looking for the moon eye to be basically busting the surface or to have like what would look like raindrops on the water. Well, right about 9:30, they started popping on the water pretty good right near the bank, near a tree, and we went over there, and I caught channel cats, I caught moon eye, I caught crappie, I caught bluegill, and matter of fact, some of the bluegill that I caught were some of the biggest bluegill I think I've ever caught in my life. And I threw them bluegill in my live well to use for bait, and I was actually really surprised at the size of the flathead that ate that gigantic bluegill. I think it was my biggest flathead that I caught might have been about 8 or 9 pounds, and he ate that gigantic bluegill. It really opened my eyes to the size of bait that you can take out there and throw out there live. But
Oh,
what's that?
a small flathead will take a huge live bait. It's
Yeah,
amazing what they can
yeah.
do.
As a matter of fact, I at one point at night I had caught a flathead on just a little average sized bluegill, and he was just sticking out of the mouth of him, and I pulled him back out, and he was still alive. So I went ahead and threw him on the hook again, and caught another flathead, and I pulled him out of the second flathead's mouth, and he was still alive. Now I hook him right behind the top fin in their back. Above there's a lateral line that goes down the fish that normally you can see, and I try to get right above that. It's normally not even a half inch into the meat of the back of the fish, and it's on the top side of the bluegill behind the back fin. And that the second flathead that I had caught, I had pulled him out, and I had hooked him so many times right there that he had pretty much pulled all the meat that he had there out. So I went ahead and hooked him from the bottom side under the tail, and actually caught a third flathead on him. Three flatheads on the same bluegill, and they were all in that small, you know, small hook, or small, 3 to 5 pound range for the flatheads. Yes, I had many times. Robert asked. He says, "Will a flathead run with the bait and not eat it just yet, or take it and eat it immediately?" I've had on many occasions a flathead will actually bite down and basically try to kill the fish and not even put it in his mouth, or sit there and just mouth it. Won't even have the whole fish in his mouth. Will just hold it there and just sit there and not move. And he might not move for 5 minutes. He might not move for 15 minutes. Or he might grab it and he might take off running. Normally, a lot of people consider a flathead bite to be that slow, if you got clickers on, or that slow draw down. They're not normally a hammer it down kind of fish, but I've had them hammer it down. Um, if Lyle and Chuck want to go in on that a little bit, they can.
Well, I've had them do it both ways, and a lot of it depends on your condition you're fishing in. If you're up in skinny water and they're in a brush pile or something, they might just sneak out, grab that thing, and lay there and hold on to it. But if you're fishing heavy current down by a dam or something, most of the time they'll crush it, take off with it, and basically swallow it. Them's the ones that I really watch, because when they do that, a lot of times they're hooked way down deep and you can't get the hook out. And by the time you get them up, they're either bleeding really bad and you got to do something with them, or just cut the hook off and see if they're going to survive. But whenever I get one hook like that, it goes in the live well till I decide if it's going to survive what it's just been through or not. Because when you get one with a 4 or 5 inch bluegill in it and it's swallowed that thing, and you get a hook way down deep and they're bleeding real bad, there's no sense of turning that fish loose if it's going to die. But if it stops bleeding and everything comes out all right, and you want to return it to the water, you can. But if not, that's a fish that shouldn't be just turned loose to waste.
And Chuck and Lyle, have you heard of? I've seen it on Facebook and I've heard about it before. But for the bleeding fish, and I know, like, if I get a fish that I've hooked deep or something, and I'm at all concerned about that fish's survivability, I'll cut that hook and let them just have the hook down there. But have you heard about pouring the coke down their throat for a bleeding fish?
I've heard about it. I've never tried it. But if they're hooked that deep, like I say, I always put them in a live well to make sure that they're going to stop bleeding before I turn them loose.
Yeah.
But no, I have heard of that coke, and I've also heard that it doesn't really matter if it's coke or something else a lot of times, because of the carbonated water. But now, You know, you can hear all kinds of stuff. I haven't actually had any. Uh, I've never done it, so I can't really weigh in honestly.
Chuck, have you ever done it or you know anything about it?
No, I've heard about it. I've never done it. But I've heard a lot of people talk about, and I have actually cut my line and left the hook in instead of trying to remove it and see how he does. And most of the time they're pretty active. I usually don't eat the fish anyway. Usually don't have any way to keep the fish if I'm staying the night or whatever. So um, I usually just let them go. Most of the time they're not even bleeding. I just cut the line as close to the hook as I can, and just let them go.
Yeah, so Robert, on also on the flatheads, if you're breaking lines, you got to figure out if that fish, if you got your clickers on, maybe you need to try not using your clickers, letting that fish actually grab the bait and turn around and get in behind some brush or whatever where he might be getting you stuck or hung up. And if that's the case, you could also even try if it's just breaking your if you got a mono leader line, um, maybe shorten the leader line up a little bit, get some of the leader line that has less stretch to it. Try to get the hook set a little faster in them, and maybe a rod that has a little more of a backbone to it for flathead fishing, so you can muscle them away from that debris or whatever they might be pulling you back into. A lot of time, like when I was fishing for this weekend, I had all my rods that were up towards the bank were my beefier rods, and they had like my 7,000 things like that. So it was more, um, I wanted to be able to muscle them, and I only had one break off the entire time of fishing down there. So they also asked about. Lyle answered him. He said, fishing for high water, you go shallow to look for fish. This was Major Brown asked that. Um, Me personally, I when the water's coming up, I like to hit the shallower water. I like to go up near the bank or go up into creeks. Um, that's my personal opinion. Lyle and Chuck, you guys could also go in on that a little bit.
Well, if you know, it depends a little bit on the water and stuff. But right now, them blues especially are coming off spawn, and if there's any kind of bait fish up on a shallow flat, that's where I'd be. If not, I would be on the drop off, uh, because that's where your bait fish is going to be. And blues, the more current, the faster it is, the better they seem to like it. So if you can find a place that has a back eddy or something that's just off of the main channel with a shallow flat or an eddy or something where there's some bait fish, those blues will be in there and they're going to be ready to chew up.
Yeah, and
Chuck,
I always think about the wind. When you have a wind, a crosswind, um, I never try to fish out of the wind because when the wind blows across the lake, it's blowing all the plankton, it's blowing everything to the other bank. Um, so that's where the bait fish they're going to be over there feeding. So naturally, the catfish, stripe, everything's either going to be on the channel edge on that side usually, or up on the flat. Because if most of the time, if I try to stay out of the wind, I never catch anything. So I always try to, even if the wind's really bad, I'll get right out there in it on the far bank, get busted by the swells, everything else. But I usually do better, um, out in the wind on the far bank.
I agree. That's a great idea because, like I say, if you can find the bait fish, especially right now, you'll find if there's any kind of water or structure at all, you're going to find the blues.
yeah, I know. Mr. Seark also gave you an option to place a stinger hook on the bluegill. I personally haven't done it. I try to put as little amount of hooks in the bluegill as possible, just keep him alive. But if you put a stinger in him, Um, um, I'm not sure if you'd put it up near the top part of the fish. You're trying to get one in the front and one in the back, so that way, whichever way he takes it, if he only takes a little bit of it, you're going to get a hook into him.
Well, most of the time, them flatheads are going to take them head first.
Yeah.
So you want one as close to the front as you can, and then one as close to the back as you can. And you know, the way I do it is if I use the same size hooks most of the time, but if you're using a different size hook, you want your smaller hook towards the back.
I always have bad luck with the front hook, even when I'm using a stinger. It seems like if I hook them in front of the dorsal fin or in the mouth, it's more prone for the hook to turn back into the bait.
That's true.
So the hook, I usually the one behind the fin, I come up through the back like Chris was talking about. It's usually the one that's money. I usually don't try to hook them like that in heavy current because they'll try to face down current, and the current's coming in the back of their gills instead of toward their face. So in heavier current, even though the hook will turn back in them a lot, I usually hook them, through the lips, and so they'll be facing toward the current, swimming toward the current, and they'll stay alive longer. Usually, if they're hooked in the tail facing down current, they won't live as long.
Robert Tallman also asked if the flatheads move out this time of year to the deeper water. I wouldn't, in my opinion, I don't think they move out. A lot of my flatheads come from within 10 foot of the bank, but here recently I've been experimenting a little bit more with my side imaging and finding the structure in the deeper water, and you can get on the flatheads in 25, 30 foot of water as well. I mean, they're out there. I myself, I tend to always sort of, I don't know if it's a wrong mentality or not, but I've always sort of, if I've got, 6 poles out in the water, then 3 of them are going to be along the bank if I'm close to the bank with a bluegill on them, and the other 3 will probably be out towards the current with skipjack or shad or something like that for blues. Unless it's an area where I have, marked some structure in the deeper water, and I might throw bluegills out all along it.
Well, now here's something else too. That while we're on the flathead thing, don't forget that if you can get live shad and keep them live, or bullheads, bluegill is easiest to get for me. I have an abundance of them and access to them, but there's nothing wrong with live sucker, live shad. Bullhead's one of the greatest flathead baits that there is. They're so aggressive when they're ready to eat that you don't want to strictly rely on them. And not think about other things because they're not going to eat the same thing every night. If there's something else that's new and available to them, they'll probably go ahead with something else. And if I go in 2 or 3 times with one bait, I sure enough want something else. Third or fourth time I go in there just to make sure that you don't have one in there you haven't been able to coax out of a brush pile or a rock pile or something like that.
For flatheads, a lot of guys like to use big goldfish too.
And, I haven't figured that out. I know that a lot of people use them. A lot of people are very successful with them. But is it because of the color? Is it because of the smell? Or is it because they're just different?
It could be a mixture of all. I don't really know. Maybe they just got a different sort of vibration they put off in the water, and that
could be. I don't know. I know if I'm going to be targeting them, I'm going to try to have anything that I've got available.
You were talking about a bullhead, and I've used a bullhead. I can't even count how many times I've used a bullhead trying to flathead fish. And I only had one to bring with me down to the Ohio River, and I brought him down. And I've never caught a flathead on a bullhead.
Let me ask you a question.
What's that?
How big was it?
Oh, I've used them anywhere from 3 inches long all the way to probably 2 pounds.
Okay. Well, and the reason I ask is because I've had greater success with bullheads if I'll cut off the fins on the side, the pectoral fins. If I,
Yeah.
I keep a set of Cindy and I keep a set of skinning pliers in the boat. We don't skin the fish with them. We use them for cutting bait off of hooks, and you can reach up there and just grab the bait and drag it off, or cut it off, or mash it off, whatever you want to do. But they work really good if you've got a couple of bullheads and you're trying to land a flathead. Just to snip those dorsal fins off, it not only saves you from getting them in your hand, but that flathead that's coming at him, if he's not big enough just to engulf him, he'll have to fight him off. He'll just go ahead and take him.
Yeah. I actually the little bullhead that I took down with me this time, I caught a channel cat on.
Oh, that's cool.
And like also with bluegills, I mean a lot of people have said this too. With a bluegill, you can take. I've got a pair of scissors that are like they're like meat scissors or something. They're industrial friggin' cut through anything type of scissors.
Right.
And I've done like what you said on the bullheads. I've cut the side things off and even the top fin horn little thing on there. And on the bluegill, I've cut a little bit of the tail, just the not the meat, just the fan part of the tail, just so that way they won't swim right. And they might look like I actually maybe scale the fish a little bit, try to get a little bit of the scales coming off, and that's done all right. And then somebody posted on here something. Yeah, also there's a lot of people catch flatheads on fresh cut bait. Seems like it pretty much has to be fresh, but I've never done very well on cut bait, but
I do
people
very
do.
well. I do
See,
very well
and
on cut bait, and I do very most time when I fish, I go half and half. I use live bait and cut bait, anchoring or drifting. Um, and in heavy currents, it seems like I do better with the cut baits. I guess because they can't feel the vibrations as much because of all the other vibrations going on around them. Um, and then it seems like in the calmer waters, you know, it seems like I do better with the live baits. Um, I think the catfish are going to hit the first thing they come to, but what's going to get them up there is what matters. You want the vibrations. I'm a fan of multiple scents. I will put out two or three different cut baits, and a couple different live baits every time I'm out. If I consistently keep getting, hits on a certain bait, I'll eventually start changing over more and more with that bait. Um, but it just seems like the current has a lot to do with if they're going to, hit cut bait or, the live bait the most. I really catch more blue catfish on live bluegill than I do on cut bait.
Would you say that you do better for the cut bait on flatheads? You think that they like, say, a head section more than they would a mid section, or a tail section? Do they like, or what all do you think they do well on cut bait?
Uh, Really, I never use tails anyway, unless I'm using the whole fish, and I kind of, I'll louver the fish all the way down, not very deep, but very close together. Put a lot of louvers in there, so I'll get a lot of scent out. Before I'll louver them, sometimes I'll even get the back of the knife and I'll brush a lot of the scales off, so them scales won't help hold in any scent. I'll go in there, I'll louver that fish real good. Them louvers will also, they make some little movement in the water, gives it a better appearance. It puts off better scent. I always cut off the dorsal fin and the side fins. If I'm using live bait, a lot of the times I'll even trim the top fin. I don't do it enough to where they can't, stay straight or affect their swimming. If I think I cut a fin too much, I'll sit them down in the water. I'll see how they're swimming. I'll take them back out. I'll put them on the cutting tray and I'll cut them up if I don't think they're going to perform well in the water. But I've seen my success rate by trimming fins have. It seems like the flatheads hold on to them better. I think if they hit them from the wrong angle and they feel those fins, they know that they're going to have to let go and come back at a different angle because they're not coming at them from the head. And if you notice any kind of fish you see on TV where they're floating on top of the water with a fish that's too big or whatever, they're always trying to eat it head first. Snakes always try to eat head first. It's natural instincts to eat head first because the fin won't go down backwards. Um, so it seems like if I trim that fin and they hit it from the wrong angle, they'll hold it in their mouth longer, which will let me get a good hook set before they spit it out to hit it from a different angle and try to get it head first.
Yeah. Well, while we were down there, we fished. There was three couples. We went down to Derby, Indiana this year. We rented a cabin for a week. We all went out. We all had our own boats. Went out catfishing every day, every night. And this is again a testament to talking to the locals down there, the guys who go down and just they've lived on the river. They go down and catfish every once in a while when they get a chance. They've noticed it. They see the guys down there commercial fishing. They've noticed how the river doesn't fish as well as it used to. It's to a point where, like I said, we had three couples down there catfishing for 7 days, and the big fish caught was a whopping 26-pound blue by Scott Wiseman. And I just got to say that since they were a sponsor for a little bit, he caught it. He caught the 26-pound blue on cut Asian carp, sprayed with dead red blood spray. Now, if you remember, I think it was Ryan Casey or somebody talked that they had somebody caught 100 and something pound blue, the state record blue, I believe it was, on Asian carp with dead red cut Asian carp with dead red blood spray on it.
Yes, that was Robert Stanley's fish, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't Ryan's, and theirs wasn't a state record.
Was it not a state record? It
No,
was
it was
100 plus pound fish.
105-pound fish on Asian carp, but as far as I know, they didn't have anything sprayed on it.
Well, whoever was on the show said they did whoever we were talking to said they had cut Asian carp. Yeah, Kilpatrick. Cut Asian carp with dead red blood spray sprayed on it, is what he said.
Man, I hope that works out for him. I don't have any. I've tried everything that sprays, and I've never caught a first fish on any of it. So, I'm going to have somebody show me that actually any of it works. I just, like I say, I've tried every brand of it made, and I've yet to have the first fish caught on it. So.
We have, flatheads kill bait before taking the whole bait. They only target blues and channels. He's not sure about the flathead game, brown catfishing. Like I was saying a little bit ago, I've had on occasions where the flathead will actually go and smack the bluegill, and you might get that quick little, almost little jerk, or if you got a clicker on, a couple little clicks or something, and you'll be like, well, that wasn't anything else, that was a fish, and then nothing will happen, and you might reel in your line if you don't give it very long or something, and you think something happened or he took your bait or whatever. You pull it in and you'll look on your fish. A lot of times I can tell if a flathead's mouthed my bluegill. I mean, you'll see on both sides of that bluegill a clear, scales gone kind of mark on both sides, and he's mouthed that fish.
That's right.
And if he's mouthed it for a while, he might have pulled every scale off the side for the most part.
Correct.
And he might not have ever put that fish far enough in his mouth to get a hook in. They can be very, very strange with how they deal with a fish. They might kill it and leave it sit there for 20 minutes and come back and take it, or they might kill it and take off with it immediately. Or they might just come up and swallow the whole thing. Like I said, I caught 3 flatheads on the same bluegill and never killed the bluegill. I caught 3 small flatheads on it. But I did, I put a big old bluegill out that caught the 8-pound flathead, and then I put another big bluegill out that I got that short hit on, and I let it sit for about 20 minutes, and I didn't know what happened. I thought, well, he might have got my bait. I reeled it in, and I just had a big smack mark on the right before my hook, where he came and smacked my bluegill and just never came back to it yet.
Yeah, sometimes they'll wait a long time to come back to one.
Yeah, brown catfish, he says, Kansas state record was caught on Asian carp with dead red. And Tallman says he has one question before we leave on tournaments. So, Robert, go ahead and ask that question. Adam says the way they bleed, you don't need spray. That's true for fresh bait. Like Scott, when Scott was out there, he didn't have, or he didn't feel like putting a new piece of bait on. So, like I say most of the time, dead red and things like that. That's really if you're short on bait or if you just want to freshen it up without putting a new piece of bait out. That's really, I mean, that's the way I use dead red. But Tallman asks, how long should you allow a flathead to run with your bait? Not very.
No.
The longer you let him run, the more chance he's going to pull you under something. And you're going to be screwed.
That's exactly right.
I never use a clicker.
No, me either. I've tried them. They don't work for me. If they take off with that, and there's any kind of bend at all in it, we're going to do battle right then. We ain't waiting for them to take off and get under a log or in a bunch of rocks or in a tree. You know, we're going to get it on right then and there. If they got the hook, then we got a fight going. If they haven't got the hook, we're going to toss her back out there and hope to get him again.
Okay, now before we go any further here, we had a giveaway this month, or last month and a half or 2 months it might have been, where we're giving away the 2 scales, the Berkeley digital scales for posting pictures on the Facebook pages for Catfish Weekly. So I'm going to go ahead and let Chuck go ahead and give those away.
Okay, it's these 50-pound Rapala digital scales. We randomly picked 2 winners. The first winner is Darren Fuller. He's from Washington. And Jesse Pigeon from Oklahoma.
Congratulations, guys. Thanks for posting your pictures.
If you're listening, just go ahead and message your mailing address to our Catfish Weekly group or our page, or I'll send you a message on your Facebook and get your address that way.
Yeah, most likely just go ahead and send them a message on Facebook, so that way they don't got to post any of their addresses or anything on public forum or anything. So
they can message our page is what I was talking about.
Okay.
Instead of posting on the.
All right. I believe that's about. I think that's about all we got for tonight's show. We want to go ahead and do some closing statements.
Absolutely.
Sound good?
We're going to Twisted Cat Outdoor Tournament for July 12th has been canceled due to flooding. We're rescheduling it for the 16th of August, and we'll be missing our tournament in Havana, Illinois due to that. But the tournament in Keokuk has added money and sponsors that we do not have in Havana. So when push comes to shove, you got to go where the push is, and Havana's going to win out this time. I hate that, but that's kind of the way it is. Also in September, we'll be having a tournament in Quincy, Illinois, and in October we will be at 25th and 26th. We'll be having the year-end tournament for Twisted Cat Outdoors. This will be a $5,000 first place prize money tournament. So anybody that hasn't fished one of the tournaments needs to get in one of the next 2 tournaments, or to fish that tournament it'll cost you an extra $100. So that should do it. Robert Tallman says we have a benefit tournament come up, catch and release. What's the best way to preserve the fish that the team comes in, weigh and release, or have a pool or sorts of them to keep them in? The best way is to have something to keep them in with oxygen, Robert, and get them back in the water just as quick as you can. And that's all I got, Chuck.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody, Alabama Catfish Trail, this coming Saturday, July 12th, we're having a night tournament from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. It's on the Warrior River. It's out of Birchfield, Brun.
Oh, hang on.
Site. That way you can just come on in at 2 and hang out the next day and probably do a little bit more fishing and some more water festivities. But come on out and join us. It's going to be a good time.
All right. Again, we want to thank everybody that's posted the pictures on there. I did have to post the update on that. We want to keep the pictures to things that, aren't fish nailed to a board, especially large, 10 plus pound fish that we're trying, like we're talking about today with the image. We're trying to get the image a little better, and, we really do appreciate all the people that posted the pictures for the site, for the giveaway that we had. We do still have quite a few advertising spots on the catfishweekly.com page. And then also, if you have a product that you might want to have a giveaway on for this next month or something, definitely get a hold of me or Lyle and get something set up. We can get with you, figure something out. The ICA has a tournament at I forget. It's somewhere on the 12th, Saturday. It's been a long week. Got to get the brain back to working now. But it's on the Wabash River down south, like oh man.
just take a minute and look it up. We'll get it right.
Yeah, give me 1 second here. I'll look it up. That's not the right one. Okay. Wabash River at Vincennes Boat Ramp in Kimmel Park. That's going to be a night tournament, 7:30 p.m. to 7:30 a.m., July 12th. You can find info about ICA and everything, indianacatfish.com. Also, again, we're going to say that, even though each one of us individually have our own sponsors, the show itself is not affiliated with any company or product or person. We're just doing the show and trying to spread the passion and love that we have for the sport of catfishing. Trying to do what we can to get the best information we can out to people and just have a good time doing it. So no politics. We try to just keep all the other crap to a minimum or are completely gone out of here. So we appreciate it. We hope everybody continues to watch us, and if you have ideas or suggestions for the show or anything like that, feel free to let us know. Post on our page, send us a message. Also, individually, if you're a fan of the Catfish Weekly page, go to each one of us. We don't mind accepting new friend requests. Send us a friend request personally. Chuck Davidson, Lyle Stokes, and Chris Wallace on Facebook, and just send us a Facebook friend request and we'll accept it, and you'll see whatever we're posting on individually.
Hey, Chris?
Yep.
Chad Wall has put on here that July 26th, Madison, Indiana, Extreme Catfishing Tournament. I thought we'd pass that along before you close out. And Brown's Catfishing up in Iowa says take some pictures so they can make everybody famous on Catfishing Winter Circle. In case anybody doesn't know, he posts tournament results around the nation on a website on Facebook website that everyone could see. He does this for nothing. It's just a great venue and a great way to see what all the tournament people are doing throughout the United States.
Yeah, it's a really, really cool thing that he does on there. I look at it, I see that every time that he posts on there, it shows a little bit about the tournament, the best weight finishes of the week, and he posts them up on there with a photo and a little bit of information about the fish that was caught and the tournament and all that. So
he spends a lot of time doing that. I mean,
yeah, Catfishing Winter Circle. So make sure you guys go and check that out on Facebook as well. That's anybody that's doing stuff like this for Facebook or for catfishing. They're not getting paid for it. There's the money ain't in catfishing. There's nobody out, giving guys $100,000 to do that stuff. So definitely take a few minutes to go appreciate what they're doing for you to be able to appreciate it and everything. So
Absolutely, a like and a thank you on their page is the most that anybody that has any website ever gets, and believe me, it's very well appreciated when you see that.
yep. So we appreciate everybody showing up tonight for the show. Like I tell everybody, stay out of my spot.